All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ferocious Fatherhood podcast. We're in our 30 for 30 campaign where we're interviewing 30 fathers all over the world, having a 10-minute conversation with them, discussing the major issues that we're facing, major solutions that we can come up with. Tonight, I got Johnny Hurst all the way from England, Manchester. It's nice to have you here, brother.
Nice to be here.
The owner of FTHR.hood Clothing. So go ahead, take a minute, kind of introduce what you do, who you are, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, cool. So I said my name's Johnny. I'm 39 from Manchester. I'm engaged to my partner Nikita, who's sat here, but she ain't coming on camera. I've got two kids. I've got Franklin, who is 3, nearly 4, and Naya, who is 1, who are thankfully in bed. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening. Yeah, and I own FTHR.hood Clothing, which is a parental mental health awareness brand. We give, until recently, we've put 10% of the profits into a grant scheme for struggling families, but we're relaunching, meant to be today, but it's been held back. We're relaunching in a few weeks, and then 10% of our profits is going to a local anti-bullying and mental health campaign called BU, where the profits will help run anti-bullying workshops, pay for counselling, food parcels, pay for utilities for people struggling, that sort of thing. And I started that brand after my own mental health journey. I'd also started a business because I had to, because I lost my job just before lockdown. And it's turned into this crazy adventure that's become FTHR.hood Clothing, which is now a brand and a community. And we're starting doing some outreach work as well. So yeah, that's me. That's FTHR.hood in a nutshell. I'm sure you can delve a bit deeper.
That's so awesome to hear. I was looking through your page the other day, and I was seeing that you guys are doing the coffee talk kind of all throughout October. Can you kind of explain what that is?
What was that? Sorry, the coffee mornings.
Yeah, are you guys doing?
Yeah, so that's actually it's going to be a long-term thing. The coffee outreaches. So that's not just going to be through October. We start it in October, and that's just going to be an ongoing thing. Where I will be at a local coffee shop near a hospital, so that especially men, new fathers, can come to, if they've just got any questions for someone who's already a dad, if they're going through something. I mean, we went through a bit of a rough ride with our son, so I have a lot of experience dealing with sort of tough situations as a new dad. So anything like that, and they just need to chat to somebody, I'll be in a cafe just around the corner at least once a fortnight. It'll be advertised in the local nurseries and things, but mainly the maternity ward at the hospital, and dads can just come and sit and have a chat with me, and we'll pay for their coffee, and and they can come once, they can come twice, they can come 10 times. It's just going to be an outreach thing for new dads, because there isn't anything like that in our local maternity units. But I have just agreed a partnership today with an online men's magazine. It's actually going to be, the coffee one is going to be under their name, but powered by FTHR.hood. So it's Man Dad magazine, powered by FTHR.hood. So we'll pay for the coffees. And then Man, Dad and myself will be recruiting people all around the UK to volunteer to do this sort of one morning every fortnight. And they send us the receipts and we pay for the coffee, and they'll do the same thing. So that starts beginning of October time.
Man, that's so cool. I think it's so important to be out and about and be seen. Even it's just that real short interaction. I think that's so important. So that's really cool that you guys are doing it. All right, so let's get into this. Can I get kind of like a general background of you kind of growing up? What was your childhood like? Was your father in your life? You already said that you had a couple kids. Kind of go from there.
So I was actually adopted at birth. So I didn't know, and still don't know, my birth father. I did reconnect about 4 or 5 years ago with my birth mum and then 2 brothers. It turns out I actually grew up like 10 minutes around the corner from them. And I now actually only live 2 minutes walk away from my birth mum's house, and then 5 minutes from my family house around the corner as well. So we're all quite close. But my birth dad, I never met. Still not met him. But my adoptive father, who is my father, he's always been there. He's always been a businessman, which I think is where this has come from. I've worked with the family business before now, and he's just always been in my life. He's just been one of those dedicated dads who just always provided. He just worked hard constantly to provide for the family and give us, not whatever we wanted. I don't come from he's not a millionaire or anything in that respect. But he just made sure he was always working, but he was always present. It wasn't like he was working all the time and away and I never saw him. He got a nice balance going when I look back. I remember him being away quite a lot. because I remember that like we'd have a McDonald's one night, a fish and chip the other night, a Chinese the other night, and then my mum would run out of takeaways, but my dad was home cooking, so it was fine.
Right.
So we had a nice balance. Yeah, and so he's always been in my life. I still see him regularly. He's, how old is he now? 70, 71, I think he's just turned, and I still see him fairly regularly. He can't hear a word I'm saying to him because he's deaf, but yeah, I did have a period in my life where I let him down quite badly, which is sort of part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and hopefully, you know, he'll look at it eventually and go, yeah, he's done all right.
No, that's awesome that he was really, really big in your life. And so what were some of like the major lessons that you learned from him? Like how did he teach them to you?
It was, I mean, I was always around the business. So from being a kid, I was always around the business. And I think I've never had the conversation with him, but I have a feeling he was trying to teach me to take sort of self-responsibility and do something and make something of myself, but always encouraged me to do whatever I wanted. Unfortunately, I went through a period of my life where I just I forgot all that. And I won't go into it on this, we could be here all night, but I went through a period where I was not the best son, let's put it that way.
Sure.
And let him down quite a bit. And I think that hurt him because he tried to instill this work ethic in me, and he's a really sort of honest, hardworking guy. He'll do anything for anybody. And while I am also that, I have also in the past been an idiot. And I think that sort of that really did him in quite a bit. So doing what I'm doing now, and especially with him being sort of such an old age, I want to sort of make something of it before it's too late and sort of show him that, you know, I can be what you tried to teach me to be.
Mm-hmm. So it really sounds like, so I got talking about this with my brother, to where it really sounds like maybe your dad didn't sit down and say, hey, these are lessons that you need to learn. But it sounds like more like you kind of picked it up as you went along, you know, little bits here and there type of thing. Like maybe they said something to you. It really sounds like that's kind of what was the case with you.
Yeah, as I say, when I was really young, he I don't remember if he insisted on me doing it, but I don't remember having much of a choice in working in the family business. And it started off just on a Saturday. So I was always around him. And at home, he was just the dad who, he was a really hands-on dad. He'd do cleaning, the cooking. Because my mum was a teacher, so she was working hard. So he'd be coming home doing the cleaning, the cooking. He's the one who drove us places. I remember even on a Saturday, actually, my mum would go into the business. My mum would go into the business, so my dad could take me and my brother out for days because he wasn't there during the week. And we'd get a Wayfair train ticket, and he'd just take us wherever he fancied taking us for the day, like historical homes or parks or that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So it was more not trying to teach me anything. He was just always there doing things with us. But then from an early age, he had me in the business, and I saw like a different side to him. And he wasn't, he didn't try specifically to teach me lessons, but watching him work and him teaching me the business, I sort of learned all these things that I was sort of supposed to be or should be. And I flitted in and out of that business. In the end, he handed it over to me. And this is where a lot of the disappointment, I think, comes in, because I got handed something that was quite profitable. I was quite responsible at the time and didn't treat it as I should have done. Which I think hurt him quite a bit, because he built that thing over like 40 years. We made the decision between us in the end. It wasn't the right thing for me to have that, and we sort of sold it on. But I was always part of that. He always had me as part of that. And I think that's where he taught me most things without actually teaching me. He just did, and I watched. Right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. Is the more active, just present you are, the more you pass on to your kids. That's huge. I mean, my dad was the exact same way. I can't remember a time when he sat me down and said, hey, look, you need to follow A, B, and C. But I can count the lessons. I don't have enough fingers for all the lessons that he taught me. And it's just incredible what you pick up through that.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely had those conversations with me where I've messed up in the past, and he's been, right, get here now, sit down, you're listening to me. Yeah. We've had that, but there was never any, right, come here, this is how this works, or this is what, it was just, he'd show me rather than tell me. But not tell me, he was showing me. He'd just do it, and I'd sort of catch on.
So then, being kind of around the business or in other aspects of your life, did you have any other strong fatherly style figures in your life? Any maybe coaches?
I mean, my granddad, I had two granddads, one of which died when I was quite young, but the other one, he was quite a successful bank manager, and he was a very funny man, but very stern. And he he liked teaching you something. You couldn't leave that house without being taught something, whether it was
That's
a little bit
awesome.
about the snooker he was watching, or how to build something or fix something, or if I'd been particularly naughty that week, he'd sit me down and explain the error of my way. I'd always have to go away learning something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always quite scared of him in a way. Well, not scared of him, but scared of doing anything that might upset him or let him down. Because my mum would tell him before we got there every Saturday, and I'd have to sit down and have the hard word with him. But then he was happy, loving granddad again. And he was a big figure in my life. But apart from that, there was no other real sort of male sort of figures in my life at that point. Until I became a teenager, I didn't really have that. It was just, I didn't need it. I don't think I needed it at the time.
So then when you became a teenager, did you have someone do that? Did that develop in someone?
Well, I had many people, because I joined the cadet forces when I was 14. And I had a lot of strong male role models about, all ex-forces guys who were teaching and instructing in various bits and pieces. And that turned me into sort of like I thought I was quite a well-rounded teenager, because I wasn't, the sort of mistakes I've made and the being an idiot came a lot later in my life, in my late sort of 20s, maybe even early 30s. So at the time I was quite well-rounded. And these guys sort of took me from being quite like a nice little well-rounded teenager into being a man, really. They sort of helped me along the way, along with my father. They taught the streetwise type stuff, and the sort of growing in maturity, where my dad was more the practical and emotional type things. So I had a lot of male role models around then.
That is awesome to hear. So with the lessons that both your father and the other role models taught you, how have you passed them on to your children? And like, what are kind of like the core values of what it is that you incorporate into like your father's style?
Yeah, I mean, I've always got in the back of my mind the sort of stupid things that I've done, and occasionally still do. And I sort of feel like, am I actually the person to be teaching them these things? And I do sort of slip up, like I swear in front of them a bit, or you know, the silly little things. But through doing what we're doing, and with them being so young, I mean, I'm hoping that they can see, one, that it's possible to make something of something, especially at sort of later in life. I mean, I don't want them to go along worrying like, I've got to do this now. They can look back and go, well, when I was 4 or 5, Dad was nearly in his 40s, and that's only when he started making something for himself. But then what we do is we give a lot of our time to other people, and we do a lot of things for other people, because I don't want anybody in the situation that I've been in. My partner's had her mental health sort of struggles as well, and we just don't like the thought that other people have to go through that when they don't have to. So we're doing this so they grow up seeing that. And even now, my son, if he sees that we're having a bit of a bad day, he comes up, he's like, "You've got this, Daddy, you've got this." Because that's obviously what we say to people quite a bit, especially on a live stream and you can't really interact too much, and someone comes on having a bad day, and you've got this, man. And he's picking up on little things like me. And he's always, "Oh, you've got to be kind, you've got to be kind." So that's we're doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to show him this is how things should be. You should look out for people.
It sounds like you're doing an awesome job. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Kids, they just pick up everything. So him just coming up to you and saying, "Hey, you got this." That's huge.
Yeah, I've got you, Daddy.
Awesome.
I've got you, Daddy.
That is awesome.
Like, and we were Paul the other day, and he was like, "You have a sleep, Daddy, and I'll look after you." And he'll just sit there, and he sort of recognised Daddy's burnt out, Daddy's not well, and he's happy to just sit there and play a game. And he kept checking on me and stroking my head. And he's a very polite kid. That, it's just the little life lessons at this sort of age that you need to teach them, and actually tell them, you need to do this, you need to do this, but then start showing them young. Like, people might think that my daughter, who's only 1, she can't pick up on these little things, but she sees us live and talking to people and hear the things that we say to people, and we sort of explain to our son in front of her, "Well, we helped this person today and did this." And she'll grow up hearing it. She might not understand it, but she'll grow up hearing it, and hopefully it all rubs off.
100%. I'm totally sure that it does.
I'm not stuck on teaching them, like, don't make this mistake, don't make this mistake, this would be a mistake, don't do this. I'm stuck on teaching them, you can do what you want to do, you can be who you want to be, just be nice to people, and don't be an idiot.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then they can go up and make all their mistakes. And as
Yeah.
they make them, I'll go, Daddy did that one and 10 times worse. So don't worry about it. This is what we'll do.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'd rather do that than
One of the
try and instill it all in them dead young.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things that myself and my wife teach is we're okay if you make mistakes. Just own it. It's okay. Hey, you tried something. If you got hurt or it didn't work, but hey, let's own it. Let's learn from it. Let's fix it. What went wrong? All right, let's analyze it. Cool. And let's just kind of move on. It's not the end of the
Yeah.
world when you make a mistake. So then how in today's world, I know there's a ton of different views on fatherhood, but how effective do you view the modern family, the modern father? I'm sorry.
I mean, it depends. I don't really know what the modern father is. I mean, there's definitely a difference between how my dad was and how I am, just in terms of life's just different.
Mhm.
Like everyone thinks there's a right way to do things now, or you shouldn't do it that way. You shouldn't do it that way. There was sort of, I think, when I was a kid, something like the 80s, it was sort of like a set way to parent, but you didn't have the influences of technology, especially. Culture's changed so much, and you didn't have all that then. And it sort of was get up, get dressed, go to school, be polite, come home, play with your mates, go to bed. And it
Mhm.
was very easy as a parent, I think, to manage that. And that's what I saw all my mates doing. But kids now, it's just so, when I look and I'm out and about and I speak to like parents, it's just so diverse. It's like, what is the modern way of parenting, or what is a modern dad?
Mhm.
It's just got to vary so much. I mean, when Franklin was first born, we were given a pram, and in the top of the pram was a slot for an iPad. And I went, no, I'm not going to be the dad that sticks the iPad in that pram. 2 months, fucking get the iPad in. Get that iPad in. Keep him quiet. And I think that's sort of, it summed up for me that sort of how much things have changed. And because people were saying, you don't do that. It's really bad to give them this screen time, and it's really bad to let them expose them to that when they're so young. And that's just the way life is now.
Mhm.
And I think a modern dad is somebody who just understands that things have to be done in moderation, and there's a lot of outside influences that could affect you, and it's controlling, you know, what you get those outside influences and making sure they don't affect your kid too much. Whereas before, if we talk about sort of old school dad, 80s, whatever, there wasn't anything like that really. I mean, I don't remember bullying being a massive thing. There certainly wasn't online trolling, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And it's harder because it's about being aware of all these things and keeping up to date. There wasn't a lot to keep track of 20, 30 years ago.
Mhm.
Now we keep track of changing technologies and social media, and especially like the online bullying things that are going on, and things that are affecting children, because we speak to parents a lot. And I can't keep up with it. So it sort of scares the crap out of me a little bit.
Mhm.
In that, you know, when he goes to school, how am I going to know about all these things that are going on, and how am I going to manage that and be able to help him?
Mhm.
I think that's going to be the sort of the major struggle.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a very good point. It's definitely with technology nowadays. It's hard to walk that line. It's hard to like, hey, this is acceptable. This isn't. This is when it's acceptable. This isn't. Like I was talking with my dad earlier, and one of the big things that changed from his time to ours is definitely like the technology you use at the tables. So something like my wife and I do is when we go out to eat, we don't. My son's not on like an iPad. He's not, and he is 4 as well. And we really try. Hey, when we're out together, this is family time. Let's be together. But then there's also times when like, hey, you've done really good. Let's watch a movie while we eat dinner. You know, let's set up in the living room.
yeah,
Let's do that. Let's watch some TV type deal together. So it's
I
definitely
suppose like,
a hard line.
yeah, I mean, especially when I was a kid, and probably into the sort of 90s and even early noughties, like if a kid left the house and went to play with their mates, or was at school, or going into the local town to go shopping or whatever, then you're worried and you're thinking about the things that you'd worry about when your kids are out. But then they come home and they're in the safe space, and you've got complete control, and you know they're okay, and you've got full influence over what they do. But you don't have that anymore, because they come home, then they're on the phone, they're upstairs on their iPad, they're gaming, talking to people, and you just have no idea what's going on, even when they're in that safe space. And in fact, the safe space at home, when they're out at school or when they're out shopping with their mates or something, that's actually a lot safer now than when they're back in the home, because you have no idea what they're being exposed to. So it's about sort of controlling that, and that's really difficult because you try and control that too much. And I imagine I'm dreading being a teenager, Because I know what I'd be like if I was being told you've got an hour screen time, or no, you're not having an account on that, or let me see your phone. I'm dreading it. I'm dreading it completely.
Well, it sounds like you got a little bit to go. So you said your son's 4, right?
He's 4 in October. Yeah. He can already use a phone better than me.
Oh yeah.
That's what he does in the morning. He comes in at 5:30 in the morning and picks my phone up and then starts. It started out, he's just watching like YouTube videos, and we got like a kids YouTube on, so we'd only watch that. But I woke up this morning and he got my phone. He was playing Among Us, like really well as well.
Yeah.
He's like, Daddy, I'm an imposter. Oh my God, give me that.
I didn't even know what an imposter was at that age. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And I think you really got to stay engaged with your children so you can better help them guide along that line. You have to. So what are like some ways that like you stay engaged with your children? What are some of the best ways that you found? Yeah, just what's the best? What do you got?
Basically, we learned quite early on with Franklin that he's very independent, and I'd feel really bad. So I'd sit back on the sofa watching telly, and I'd be like, he's playing down there. I really should be playing with him. And I go and play with him. He wanted nothing to do with me, absolutely nothing. So I find the best way to do things is I sort of, now he wants involvement, but at certain times, like, so I will get involved, and at the point where he's actually like, yes, come sit play with me, I will make sure that I'm fully engaged with what he's doing, but then know to sort of pull myself away and let him do that. It's perhaps partly from the sort of, I learned military instructional techniques in the cadet forces, and there's a certain way to teach people things, and I think it works with kids as well. And a lot of that is standing back and then watching them do it. So even with things like play, I'll get involved and then I'll pull myself back and just watch him do it on his own rather than being there and you know, on him all the time, trying to show him all the time. I'd rather tell him and then let him do it and then sort of sit back. And so I sort of took that from that experience I had. That's what the sort of role models in my life used to. My dad was very sort of hands off. He'd just do and I'd watch. And then when I got to sort of that period of my life, people were showing me how to do things and then letting me do it. And that's just sort of how I know. That's what I know. Whereas other parents are quite sort of hands-on, like with things like feeding, they're there like spoon in hand and helping them do it. I was like, here's a spoon, watch Daddy, right, go on. That sort of style. And I let him lead it, really. I let him lead what I teach him and what my partner teaches him. You'll agree? Yeah, we sort of just let him take the reins with it. He's quite, he's very inquisitive and he wants to do things, but he wants to do it on his own. So he will ask and then he'll just want you to go. I mean, it doesn't always work. He tips his potty over his head today. So it doesn't always work. But
that's where like, hey, you make a mistake. Let's learn from it. Let's move on. What did we do wrong? Oh, we kicked it. Okay, cool. We move on. No big deal.
Yeah, rather than being there, I see a lot of parents. I'm not saying it's wrong, because one of the things that we learned really early on, and we say to people, oh, what advice can you give me? Don't listen to anybody's advice. Unless you've asked for it, don't listen to it, because you're going to get told 25 different things.
And every single one of those things is different and contradict each other, and none of them fit your situation.
There's no right way at all. So we just let him, we just sort of let him do. We don't, we're not there all the time. Like I said, so a lot of parents I'll see are there all the time. No, this is how you do it like this, come here, do that. And that's their way of parenting, and maybe that works. I look at it, and again, I will never give parent advice, but in that situation, I do look at them and think, just stand back a minute, they'll be all right. Just leave them, because otherwise they become too dependent on you. And then you get a child who, when they start going to school and into high school, you've done that all their life. That's when they really struggle. Yeah,
I totally agree. Myself and my wife, we're very much like, hey, let's let him learn. He wants to jump off the castle by himself. Let's let him learn. He wants to, kind of like what you were saying. I'll show him a couple times. If he's not getting it, he say, hey, can I have help? Yeah, I'll help you if you're helping yourself. That's something big that my dad imparted on me. So it's really something I try to impart as well. So yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like with walking recently with our daughter, with walking. But we did it a lot with Franklin, didn't we? We were like, come on, come to Daddy, come to Mummy and try and get him walking. And he just still did it in his own time. He was like, nah, just got up and walked one day. So like with my daughter, we've not really pushed it, have we? We've just sort of like tried it every now and then, like, come on, have a little walk. But we've not sat there for like an hour at a time, like, come on, stand and go to Daddy, go to Mummy. We just left her to it, and then every now and then just give her a little bit of a hand. And all of a sudden, in a curry house 2 nights ago, she just got up and went.
Yeah.
Like the most random place to start walking, but yeah, up round the tables. And as I say, we were just this time, we were like, let's just leave her. We were really eager for him to do it, weren't we? We were like, come on, do what? Talk, say your name. But with her, we're just like, just leave her to it. And now she's probably talking more than my lad was. She's walking probably sooner, I think, than he was. Just by letting him do it, give him a bit of help every now and then, and just leave him to it. And there's my style. Just watch him and see what happens. There's my parenting.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's,
if you need me. I'm just going to sit and watch you.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I could not agree anymore. Step back, let them do their thing. Yeah, but so hey, you shared a lot of wisdom here. What is there any last pieces of advice or anything that you want to cover that we didn't really cover at all?
No, I think it's just to sort of sum it up is from a dad's point of view is I sort of go back to the advice thing, because the one thing we haven't really touched on is what do you do if you need help, and that's sort of what we're about. One, from the mental health point of view, but just in general, like I found it quite hard, and I probably still do. Like I like to do things. I'm dad, that's my responsibility. So I'd find it really hard to go to another dad and go, mate, can you just help me out with this, pal? Because I really have no idea what I'm doing. Is don't sort of be like that, because I found myself in a position where I started really struggling with fatherhood. I think part of it was because my son was quite ill when he was born. I had a lot going on in my head. And it's, if you need help either from the parenting side or you as a father who's struggling, your responsibility is to be there for your kids. But if you're not right in other areas, you need to address it. So ask for help when you need it, whether that be parenting or whether it be mental health help. Because I nearly wasn't here for my son because of that. I just never asked for help. So yeah, the one thing I think we didn't touch on is the strain it can have. And if you need help as a dad, ask for it, because that's how fatherhood's come about. I didn't ask for it. I just powered on through everything and didn't power on very well and nearly wasn't here. So if you need help, ask, because any dad is feeling exactly the same and will help.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Could not have said it any better. I love it. It's definitely a aspect that's not as, I didn't really hear about it until I really started looking into it. Mental health is huge with fathers. And if you need that help,
people
gotta reach out.
Yeah, it's probably the same in the US. People focus a lot on men's mental health and men don't talk. And it's not really men don't talk about mental health. Men talking about mental health doesn't solve the problem. It's men talking about why they're feeling the way they're feeling, or talking about what they're struggling with, not just that they are, about what they're struggling with. And that sort of carries over not just in the mental health side, but into the parenting side. Sometimes you're not going to know what you're doing. So
absolutely.
Ask somebody. There's always somebody there to ask. And I say that's what we're sort of about. We've got motherhood as well. She's sat here. I say we're not going on camera today, are we? Somebody went out last night. So we've got motherhood, my partner Nikita as well. She's there for the mums. I'm there for the dads. And we've sort of learned from having a community who are all watching now and putting. I'm not ignoring you guys. I can see comments. I've learned so much from the community we've got, and I don't find I have to ask anymore. People will pop up and ask questions of each other, and then I'll read it and go, oh, actually, yeah, I'll try that, and go off and do it. And they sort of help me every day, and they are just a bunch of parents who all talk to each other. So I know parents are there for parents when you need them to be. If you're struggling, ask.
Absolutely. I could not agree anymore. All right, brother. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Can give a real quick kind of how people can get a hold of you, kind of your website, emails, whatever information you want to put out there. I'm interested to hear it.
Yeah, so we're on socials. So our links on TikTok and Insta, where we've got quite a big community. Father.hood, but it's FTHR.hood. And then our website is www.FTHR.hood.co.uk. So fatherhood.co.uk. That's not live at the moment, but it will be in a few weeks. We've closed down to get ready for a relaunch, and that'll be back open in about 3 weeks. But if you pop your email address in, you'll get updates about what we're doing, the outreach work, the charity work. And if the email address is on there as well. So if anyone does need any help or support with anything, our campaign that we work with, the BU Anti-Bullying and Mental Health campaign, will provide counselling abroad as well. So if anyone needs someone to talk to and you're struggling getting hold of counselling, give us an email through the website or give a message through socials, and we can get you in touch with them. And they will do face-to-face sort of video counselling as well for nothing. That's all funded by the fundraising.
Cool. All right, brother. Well, hey, thanks for being on here. I really do appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much, mate.
Yep. Enjoy it. Have a great rest of your weekend. All right.
Thank you, Shane. Look after yourself, mate.
All right.
Thank
Will
you,
do.
man.
You
See you
do the
later.
same. Love you, brother. Later.
Cheers, man.